When a prince writes his own story and medical professionals start calling it fiction, you know something's deeply wrong. We're talking about one of the most scrutinized pregnancies in modern history. And yet, somehow, the official version keeps changing depending on who's telling it. Harry put pen to paper thinking he was setting the record straight. But instead, he may have accidentally exposed the biggest lie the couple ever told. Because buried in his memoir are details that don't just seem unusual, they're medically impossible according to actual doctors who deliver babies for a living. 2 epidurals in one labor, a 2-hour hospital stay after complications, a same-day discharge when standard protocol demands at least 24 hours of monitoring. None of it adds up. And now, someone with a massive platform is putting all the pieces together in a way the palace can't ignore. Candace Owens has entered the chat, and she's not holding back. She's pointing to contradictions that have been whispered about for years, demanding answers that Harry and Meghan seem desperate to avoid giving. Hospital staff are quietly speaking out. Medical experts are shaking their heads. Royal reporters admit they were deliberately misled. And at the center of it all is a birth story that changes every time it's told. But before we get to what Candace uncovered, we need to understand what Harry himself admitted, because that's where this entire house of cards starts to collapse. Harry's memoir was supposed to be his truth, unfiltered and raw. Instead, it reads like a medical drama written by someone who's never actually been in a delivery room. He describes Meghan enduring not 1, but 2 epidurals during Archie's birth at Portland Hospital. And if you're not familiar with childbirth, that might sound dramatic but plausible. Except it's not. An epidural isn't a quick shot you can swap out like changing batteries. It's a catheter carefully inserted near the spinal cord that stays in place throughout labor, delivering continuous pain relief. Switching it out mid-labor is extraordinarily rare, risky, and would only happen under extreme circumstances that would absolutely require extended monitoring afterward. Yet Harry glosses over this detail like it's routine, which immediately raised red flags for obstetricians who actually perform these procedures. Then there's the timeline that makes absolutely no sense. Harry claims Meghan gave birth, recovered, and was back home at Frogmore Cottage within 2 hours. 2 hours! That's barely enough time for standard discharge paperwork, let alone the mandatory checks on both mother and newborn that every hospital requires. Portland Hospital is in central London. Frogmore Cottage is a significant drive away. Even if everything went perfectly, you're looking at vitals monitoring, bleeding assessment, newborn examinations, pain management evaluation, and then the commute itself. The math doesn't work unless someone's lying about where the birth actually happened or how long they actually stayed. And if you think that sounds odd, wait until you hear how the palace handled the announcement, because that's where things go from suspicious to deliberately chaotic. Royal births follow a sacred protocol that's been in place for generations. The Queen gets informed first. An official statement is carefully prepared. The press is notified almost immediately so the public can share in the celebration. It's symbolic, it's traditional, and it's designed to maintain transparency between the monarchy and the people. But when Archie arrived, those rules didn't just bend, they shattered completely. Meghan gave 3 separate explanations for why the press wasn't alerted in the usual way, and none of them match each other. First, it was about privacy, protecting her personal space during a vulnerable moment. Then it shifted to complications during birth that supposedly prevented normal communication. And then the story changed again, leaving everyone from royal reporters to palace insiders scratching their heads trying to figure out which version was actually true. If the explanation was simple and honest, why does it keep changing? Royal correspondents who cover these events professionally admitted they were fed conflicting information in real time. Some were told Archie had already been born hours before the public announcement. Others received messages claiming Meghan was still in labor when she actually wasn't. This isn't just breaking protocol, it's deliberately creating confusion in a system that prides itself on precision and order. Palace protection officers don't make mistakes like this. Staff members don't accidentally mix up timelines. These are people trained to follow procedures to the letter. And yet, somehow, everything surrounding Archie's birth became a disorganized mess of contradictory statements. Was this confusion accidental or intentional? Because if you're trying to hide something, the best strategy is to make sure nobody can pin down exactly when and where it actually happened. The press chaos was just the surface. The real questions emerge when we look at the hospital itself and the medical claims that simply don't hold up under any scrutiny. Let's talk about what actually happens during and after childbirth, because Harry's version sounds like it was written by someone who's never witnessed it. When doctors read his description of Meghan receiving 2 epidurals, they didn't just raise eyebrows, they publicly called it out as implausible. Here's why. Once an epidural catheter is inserted, it stays in place so dosages can be adjusted without repeating the invasive procedure. Removing it and inserting a second one mid-labor would extend recovery time significantly and require intensive monitoring for complications like nerve damage, infection, or dangerous drops in blood pressure. It's not something you just bounce back from in a couple of hours. Yet Harry describes it almost casually, as if it's a minor detail rather than a major medical intervention. Now, add the recovery timeline, and the story completely falls apart. Standard medical practice requires new mothers to be observed for at least 24 hours after delivery, even when everything goes perfectly. Vital signs need continuous monitoring. Bleeding patterns must be assessed. Both mother and baby undergo repeated checks before discharge is even considered. But if complications like preeclampsia were involved, which Meghan herself has suggested doctors would never release a patient so quickly. Preeclampsia can cause seizures, organ damage, and life-threatening spikes in blood pressure. Women experiencing it are monitored for days, sometimes weeks, to ensure they're stable. So how exactly did Meghan deliver with complications, receive multiple interventions, and get home in the time it takes to watch a movie? Medical experts reviewing this account have used words like reckless and implausible. And here's the contradiction that really stings. Meghan positions herself as an advocate for maternal health awareness, often speaking about the importance of proper medical care. If her story about leaving so soon is true, it contradicts every safety standard she claims to support. If it's not true, then the public has been given a carefully edited version of events that has nothing to do with reality. Either way, the narrative raises more questions than it answers. And those questions only get louder when hospital insiders start speaking up. Behind every polished public statement, there are people who actually know what happened, and some of them are starting to talk. Anonymous employees from Portland Hospital have quietly contradicted multiple details from Harry's memoir. And these aren't dramatic accusations, they are specific, factual corrections that undermine the official story. Take Harry's claim about ordering late-night food during Meghan's stay. One insider pointed out that while Portland does offer quality dining, patients don't summon gourmet meals at all hours like Harry described. The specific cravings he mentioned don't match what staff actually remember being served, which raises a simple question. Why invent details about room service? Then there's the so-called secret elevator that Harry painted as some kind of royal escape route designed for ultimate privacy. According to longtime hospital employees, that elevator doesn't exist, at least not in the way he described it. Portland has private corridors and discreet pathways like any high-end medical facility, but nothing resembling the hidden system Harry wrote about for dramatic effect. These might seem like small inconsistencies on their own, but when you stack them together, they paint a troubling picture of a story crafted for public consumption rather than grounded in actual events. One supposed hospital insider went even further, claiming Meghan's stay was far less dramatic than the version Harry sold to the world. No elaborate meal orders, no secret exits, just a standard private berth that somehow got turned into a theatrical production for the memoir. This is exactly what Candace Owens has seized on. She's arguing that when small, verifiable details collapse under scrutiny, the bigger claims must also be questioned. Were they embellishing for sympathy? Were they trying to make the birth sound more cinematic for book sales? Or was there something more calculated at play, an effort to control every single piece of the narrative, down to the menu and the hallways, so nobody could verify what actually happened? Each leaked detail pushes the public further from trust and closer to suspicion. And that suspicion sharpens when you ask the question nobody seems able to answer. Why lie about any of this in the first place? So we've established the timeline doesn't work, the medical details don't check out, and hospital insiders are contradicting the official version. That leaves us with the question that matters most. Why? Why would Meghan and Harry feel the need to alter, embellish, or completely fabricate parts of something as intimate as their child's birth? Some people argue it was about control in a system where privacy is nearly impossible. Royal life means constant scrutiny, and maybe they wanted to own the narrative on their terms, even if that meant bending the truth to fit their preferred story. Others suggest it was a calculated play for sympathy, painting Meghan as a woman navigating extraordinary medical challenges under impossible pressure from the institution. Then there are those who believe the secrecy had nothing to do with Meghan at all, that it was about protecting the monarchy from uncomfortable questions about succession, legitimacy, or protocols that weren't properly followed. Whatever the actual motivation, the contradictions created a consequence they clearly didn't anticipate. Instead of silencing critics, every inconsistency gave skeptics more ammunition. Every timeline that didn't add up, every medical claim that fell apart under scrutiny, every shifted detail fed the growing perception of dishonesty. And once public trust starts eroding, rebuilding it is almost impossible, because people stop giving you the benefit of the doubt. Candace Owens understands this perfectly. Her criticism taps directly into the mistrust that was already simmering beneath the surface, amplifying doubts that millions of people had but weren't sure they were allowed to voice. She's asking the question that makes everyone uncomfortable. If a royal couple can't be straightforward about a birth, what else might they be hiding? Was this a PR strategy that backfired spectacularly? Was it a tangled web of half-truths that got out of control? Or was it something more deliberate, a coordinated effort to obscure the truth because the truth itself was too problematic to reveal? The result is the same regardless of intent. People are questioning the integrity of the entire story, and that skepticism isn't going away until someone provides answers that actually make sense. Enter Candace Owens, who's never been one to whisper when she can shout, and she's taking all these contradictions and turning them into a full-blown investigation that's impossible to ignore. She's not just pointing out inconsistencies, she's building a case, piece by piece, demanding answers to questions the mainstream media won't touch. Candace argues that the visual evidence doesn't match a real pregnancy, that photos from Meghan's public appearances show inconsistencies in how her body changed or didn't change throughout the supposed 9 months. She's highlighted moments where the bump appeared to shift or collapse in ways that don't align with actual pregnancy anatomy. People online have been speculating for years that the kids might be fake, that they're AI-generated, or the result of surrogacy that's being deliberately hidden. And while those claims sound extreme, Candace is asking, why? If they're so ridiculous, won't Harry and Meghan simply provide proof? Just produce a DNA sample, show medical records, provide documentation that confirms Meghan carried and delivered both children herself. If the speculation is baseless, shutting it down should be easy. But instead, there's silence, deflection, and more contradictory stories that only fuel the fire. Now, Buckingham Palace is reportedly being pressured to take action, with calls to remove Archie and Lilibet from the line of succession until the Duchess provides absolute proof of biological birth. That's not some fringe conspiracy theory anymore, it's a conversation happening in mainstream royal commentary because the inconsistencies have piled up to the point where they can't be dismissed as coincidence. Candace frames it simply: if you're being honest, transparency is easy. If you're hiding something, you create chaos, confusion, and constantly shifting narratives. So which one is this? Do you believe these inconsistencies are about protecting privacy? Or is there something deeper being concealed about how these children came into the world? Because whether you agree with Candace or think she's pushing too hard, the damage to Harry and Meghan's credibility is already done. And there you have it. From the medically impossible memoir details to the hospital contradictions, from the press protocol chaos to the insider leaks, Meghan's pregnancy story is drowning in inconsistencies that refuse to go away. Whether you believe this was sloppy storytelling, deliberate deception, or something in between, one truth remains undeniable. The official version doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Harry wrote a book thinking it would cement their narrative, but instead, he may have exposed the cracks that were always there. Candace Owens didn't invent these doubts, she just had the platform and the willingness to say out loud what millions were already thinking. The details don't match. The timelines clash. The medical claims fall apart. And every new explanation only creates more questions instead of providing clarity. Public trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to repair, and Harry and Meghan are learning that lesson in the most brutal way possible. But here's the thing. This isn't even the only part of Meghan's story that's raising massive red flags. If you thought the pregnancy timeline was wild, you need to hear about the age scandal that's emerging, because her own father, Thomas Markle, has come forward with claims that could completely change how you see her. We did a deep dive on that in our previous video, and it connects directly to everything we've uncovered today: the lies, the contradictions, the carefully constructed image that's falling apart under scrutiny. Don't miss it. Click on that video right now and continue down this rabbit hole with us. Because trust me, once you see how all these pieces fit together, you'll never look at this couple the same way again. This is Star Spotlight, where we don't just report the headlines, we dig into what's actually hiding beneath them. Stay curious, stay critical, question everything, and I'll see you in the next one.